there, welcome back to my channel for a book haul. So I have a bunch of books to show you. Some I bought secondhand, some I bought new, and some of which were sent to me by publishers and I'm super excited about. So you know the drill, let's jump straight in. I have 3 books I picked up secondhand, so I'll start with those, then move on to the ones I bought new, then the ones that were sent to me. So these are the 3 books that I bought secondhand. Now the first one I bought quite a few weeks ago now, and I could not believe that I found this in a charity shop. It was £2 and it's Isolde, Queen of the Western Isles by Rosalind Miles, the first of the Tristan and Isolde novels. So Tristan and Isolde is a ancient British legend, fairy tale based on historical characters. Maybe it's not something I'm terribly familiar with, but like I've heard the old folktale of this story, and I've seen this book around, especially when I was looking for recommendations for historical fantasy similar to Juliet Marillier. So this has been on my wish list for a year, 2 years now, and I've always thought I'll pick that up eventually. And when I saw it for £2, I just felt like the universe that day was granting me a little bit of a gift. It was the same day that I got my crown at the dentist, so that might have been why. Might have been a little bit of like an anecdote to the stress that was getting my crown. And yeah, I am super excited about this book, especially if it's going to be similar to Juliet Marillier. And I mean, the fact that I got it secondhand when I've been wanting to read it anyway, and it's not one I've even ever seen in a bookshop new. It's one that I thought I would have to buy online. Then I managed to pick up 2 books for the total price of £1. They were 50p each, and I am so pleased with myself. The first one is The Switch by Beth O'Leary. So I recently read The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary and loved it. It lived up to the hype for me personally, and that has cemented my interest in reading more of her books. This one I believe is about a young woman who swaps homes with her grandmother, and it's about them living in each other's homes, one in the rural cottage, one in the city flat. Don't know what else to expect, but given that I love The Flat Share, I'm well up for giving this a shot. Then we have a Japanese crime thriller, which is 6-4 by Hideo Yokoyama, and this is one that I've seen talked about a lot. I've seen it doing the rounds, although it seems to have quite divided reviews. Some people love it, some people hate that, but I find that in general, particularly with crime thriller novels, and I've had great success in the past with Japanese literature in general, so reading a chunky Japanese crime thriller is something I'd really like to give a shot because I haven't in the past, and I couldn't resist it when I saw it for only 50p. We then move on to the books that I bought new. So the first one I am so excited about. I picked this up in a lovely little shop called The Weird Shop in Edinburgh. That's weird with a Y. When I was with Ashley and Leanne, we were doing a little bit of a tour of central Edinburgh and historical Edinburgh because Ashley's new to the city, and we popped into this shop which specialises in magic and witchcraft supplies and has a small selection of books, including books on tarot. And I've been meaning to buy myself a book on tarot for quite a few years. I have been doing tarot since I was 15 and I'm 29 now. I have 2 tarot decks. The first one that I got when I was 15 and one that I bought in my 20s that I adore. But I've never owned my own tarot book, and I always felt like I was waiting for the right book, the book that just called to me, and until then I would continue to sort of learn online about tarot. And then I saw this, which is Queering the Tarot by Cassandra Snow, and I knew this was the book for me. So this is a book all about the art of tarot and all of the different tarot cards and their meanings, but taken in a more modern queer reading, which I'm super excited to learn from and use when I'm reading my own tarot and others in the future. So could not believe I found this. This is such an exciting book to me, and just I think to read actually from cover to cover will probably be fascinating. I then picked myself up a book in Waterstones, which is The Mad Women's Ball by Victoria Mass. This was an absolute cover draw for me. I didn't buy it because of the cover, but I picked it up because of the cover. I then read the back and realised that it is set in a women's asylum in 19th century France, and books that deal with the historical treatment of women's mental health or the misuse of women's mental health to control women in historical periods is something I'm really fascinated with and always enjoy reading fiction about and exploring through fiction and non-fiction. So immediately I knew I wanted to read this, and it's originally translated from the French itself. I have already read this one. It's actually, I think, the only book in this haul that I've read cover to cover since I bought it, and I loved it. This was a wonderful book. It was An absolute page turner. It's not very long, it's only about 200 pages, but so much happened, there was so many interesting characters, and it really delved deep into that topic that I have already mentioned. So if you too like the sound of this, then it's brilliant, would highly recommend. I then have a bunch of books that I bought in Blackwell. So these were over a few visits to Blackwell's, and Blackwell's often run 3 for 2 deals where you can buy 2 books and get one free. And typically I find that they include the Oxford World Classics in those deals, but they don't typically include the Penguin classics. So when I saw that they had a range of Penguin classics in that deal, I naturally had to buy a bunch I'd been meaning to buy anyway. So the first one is one that I have been looking to buy for ages, and that is Pausanias Volume 1, his Guide to Greece, specifically Central Greece. So there's 2 volumes that collect together all of Pausanias's writings on ancient Greece, and it's almost like an ancient travel guide. Not really in the modern sense, and not one that you could practically use to go and look at Greece even through an ancient lens, but it's a really interesting piece of literature, and one that I have read large portions of. And I actually cite passages from this first volume in my thesis, but don't own my own copy because I just read them from the library or online, and thought I need to own Pausanias. He's one of the few ancient Greek writers that I don't have on my classical bookshelf, and I really want to fill in those little gaps here and there. So I couldn't resist, like I mentioned, and had to pick up Volume 1. There is, again, like I said, a Volume 2, and I will get to that eventually, but this is the one that deals with Attica and Athens, which is my area of speciality, so is more important for me to have. We then have the Penguin Book of Witches, which is exactly what it says on the tin. It is a collection of short story it's a collection of short stories, folk tales, fairy tales, writings from various different authors, anonymous and named, about witches throughout history. We then have similarly the Book of Magic, from Antiquity to the Enlightenment. This one goes all the way back to Antiquity, all the way up to the Enlightenment. Again, I feel like I can't summarise these books better than their titles already do, but it's another anthology like the Witches book, as well as the Penguin Book of the Undead, 1500 years of supernatural encounters. So these are, again, stories and references to hauntings that date all the way back, again, I think, until Antiquity and into more recent history. So yes, super excited to have all of these finally on my bookcase. I did, however, pick up some fiction in Blackwell's as well. The first one was actually chosen for me by Ashley. We did a little bit of a game when we were in Blackwell's, Ashley, Leanne and I, where we all picked each other a book. So I picked Leanne a book, Ashley picked me a book, and Leanne picked Ashley a book. And then, assuming the other person hadn't read it, we bought it for them. So Ashley bought me this very, very kindly, and if you want to know what I bought Leanne, then you'll just have to go and check out Leanne's video. And if you want to know what Leanne bought Ashley, then you just have to go to Ashley's channel. I will link them both down below, of course. So this is Spin the Dawn by Elizabeth Lim. This is a YA fantasy novel that I have been super interested in for a while, because it's often been pitched as Mulan meets Project Runway, because it's about a young woman who goes disguised as a man to participate in this royal contest where she has to design a garment. I don't know much else about it other than that, but I mean, the premise, the comparisons, I've heard of nothing else like it. I'm super excited. Oh, and Ashley had read it and enjoyed it, so that was also a recommendation that I was fully willing to take. For myself, I picked up Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Ayamidi. This is a YA dark academia novel about 2 students who are newly enrolled in this elite private boarding school, as they often are in dark academia, but when they get there, there's somebody spreading rumours that knows things about their lives, that knows things about them they shouldn't know, and it all gets dark and twisty and turny. Again, dark academia meets Gossip Girl, I've heard this one pitched as, and generally speaking, I just love YA thrillers, so with the great reviews this is getting and the general premise, I knew I wanted to read it. Similarly, one that's getting great reviews and the premise is 100% me is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke, because this, my friends, is a queer sapphic fantasy novel, and you know, if those words are ever combined, I need the book. I need that book. Those are my buzzwords. This one is adult fantasy, and it's about a young soldier who was stolen as a child and raised to kill and die for the Empire. Everything she has planned and expected from life, however, is turned topsy-turvy when she may perhaps fall in love with a rebel. So excited. Then we have two more new books that I bought for myself. The first one is Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Sujimura. This is another translated Japanese novel and one that my friend Jen read recently and just immediately recommended to me. She said this is a book that I would love and I trust her wholeheartedly. So honestly, I didn't practice much restraint at all and immediately went and ordered myself a copy. It is also beautiful. This is published by Penguin Doubleday specifically, and it has these gorgeous French flaps. But this one is set in a tranquil neighbourhood of Tokyo, and we follow 7 teenagers who wake to find their bedroom mirrors are shining. At a single touch, they are pulled from their lonely lives to a wondrous castle filled with winding stairways, watchful portraits and twinkling chandeliers. In this new sanctuary, they are confronted with a set of clues, leading to a hidden room where one of them will be granted a wish. But there's a catch. If they don't leave the castle by 5 o'clock, they will be punished. I can see why Jen recommended this to me because it sounds exactly like my cup of tea. Lastly, I picked myself up a copy of Green Glass House by Kate Milford. I'd been meaning to read this for a while and I saw that it was on offer online, so decided to treat myself. I mean, treat myself quite a lot, but that's fine. And this is a middle grade fantasy novel that I've heard fantastic things about. Back reads, it's winter time at Green Glass House. The creaky Smuggler's Inn is always quiet during this season, and 12-year-old Milo, the innkeeper's adopted son, plans to spend his holidays relaxing. But on the first icy night of vacation, out of nowhere, the guest bell rings. Then rings again and again. Soon Milo's home is bursting with odd, secretive guests, each one bearing a strange story that is somehow connected to the rambling old house. As objects go missing and tempers flare, Milo and Meddy, the cook's daughter, must decipher clues and untangle the web of deepening mysteries to discover the truth about Green Glass House. Sounds fantastic, and another stunning cover. We then have one that sort of sits in between categories here because I did buy it myself, but it's also a proof because it's my book. I really just had to fling this in here because when I filmed my video telling you all that I had a fantasy novel coming out in September, I didn't have a proof copy without the markings on the front. So the copy that I showed you in that video had a big line across the front that said advanced reader copy, and since then I received my proof from Lulu, who are one of the platforms that I am predominantly using to publish this book. Lulu are a self-publishing distributor and publisher and print-on-demand service who have their own bookshop, so you can shop online with them internationally. My book will be available on there, and they also offer distribution service to get it into other online retailers. So that is one of the platforms that I am using, and I'd ordered a proof copy from them which has now arrived and I'm so pleased with it. It's not the final copy. We haven't designed the spine the way it's going to look, but generally speaking this is the vibe, and I wanted, like I said, to share it with you without that sort of big mark on the front. If you didn't see my announcement video, I will have it linked in the description box down below, but this is a sapphic dragon adult fantasy novel with central themes of hope and friendship. It's set at a university in a high fantasy realm, and we follow a 28-year-old scholar at this university who's dedicated her whole life to the pursuit of academia. She loves her life, she enjoys gardening and spending time with her friends, but all gets turned upside down when she awakens a sleeping dragon's egg, and she is thrown into this world of dragon companionship and is introduced to those other dragons and their companions that live in the realm of Albion, including a young woman named Isla who she develops a romantic relationship with. Plus, on top of that personal upheaval, there are some slightly dark and intriguing conspiracies happening behind the scenes that may end up playing a role in Adaria's life. So that's the brief synopsis. It's weird summarising your own book in a book haul without reading out the blurb in the way that I would summarise other books. Odd, definitely odd. But yes, I will have the announcement video and the Kindle pre-order link in the description box for this. It will be available in paperback, but not until release day, which is the 2nd of September. We then move on to the books that I was sent by publishers and I'm super excited for. First up, I have 2 books that were sent to me by Icon. The first one is a graphic novel and it is The Middle Ages, A Graphic History by Eleanor Janenga and illustrated by Neil Max Emmanuel. And I love non-fiction graphic novels. It's something I used to read a lot more of and haven't read much of in the past sort of year or so, but if you've been following my channel for a long time then you'll probably remember me mentioning them because I think they're fantastic in to any subject. And the Middle Ages is something that I only know tidbits about. It's not something that I'm well versed in, so I'm super excited to read this book. It is by a historian who knows her stuff, so I think this is really going to bring the Middle Ages to life for me and help me grow acquainted with it. Then another non-fiction title, but a much more modern topic, and that is Drums in the Distance, Journeys into the Global Far Right by Joe Mulhall. For a decade, often undercover at significant personal risk, he has investigated hate groups, so this is the author. Working for the UK's largest anti-fascism organisation, Hope Not Hate, he infiltrated a US white supremacist militia, set up a fake Ku Klux Klan branch, has been on countless street marches with violent far-right groups across Europe, and got inside some of the most important alt-right meetings ever held. So this is an incredibly important piece of undercover journalism that, like I said, I'm really keen to read. Whilst we're on the topic of non-fiction, I then have two books that were sent to me by Pan Macmillan. The first one is Thebes, the Forgotten City of Ancient Greece by Paul Cartledge. Paul Cartledge is a phenomenal historian. I've read a bunch of his other books. He writes so accessibly but in-depthly on the topic of ancient Greece, and he's someone I have come across ever since I first started studying this topic, so I'm really intrigued to read his history of Thebes, because he's right, isn't he? Thebes definitely doesn't get the degree of attention that places like Athens or Sparta or even Crete do. So yeah, this should be pretty good. And then a proof copy of Hope Not Fear, discover the extraordinary story of Hassan Akkad, Syrian refugee, BAFTA award winner, NHS COVID ward cleaner and powerful activist. Again, by Hassan Akkad. So this is his memoir. He, as the subtitle there tells you, was a refugee from Syria who ended up working in the UK on a COVID ward and has since made a film all about those experiences, which won a BAFTA, and I cannot wait to read his take and his perspective on everything going on around us in the world and his own life. Then last but not least, I was sent two very exciting fantasy novels by Hodder and Stoughton. I just, look at these covers. I cannot wait to read both of these. The first one is particularly beautiful, and that is In the Ravenous Dark by A.M. Strickland. And to be honest, I can't summarise this book better than the blurb does, so I'm just going to read it. In Phenopolis, magic is rare and closely controlled. Those blessed or cursed with power are put under constant guard assigned to undead spirits who watch their every move. Ever since her father died to save her from this fate, Rovin has kept her magic a closely guarded secret, until an accident exposes her powers for the world to see, and her tenuous freedom comes crashing to an end. Brought to the royal palace against her will and thrust into a maelstrom of intrigue and deception, Rovin is drawn to two people she cannot fully trust. Lydia, a beguiling and rebellious princess, struggling against her own destiny, and Ivorelus, the handsome, powerful spirit she has been bound to. Who can control Rovin, body and soul? Together they uncover a terrible secret that could destroy everyone in Phenopolis, the living and the dead. To save them, Rovin will have to start a rebellion in both the mortal world and the underworld and find a way to trust the princess and the undead spirit vying for her heart if she doesn't betray them first. Am I the only person that just really hopes that every love triangle in a novel turns into just like a polyamorous relationship? Because I haven't even started this book and I'm already hoping for that. We then have Fire with Fire by Destiny Soria. I mean, again, beautiful cover, and this one has dragons. I love dragons, anything with dragons, cannot wait for more dragons. The blurb of this one reads that Dani and Eden Rivera were born to kill dragons. But that's the only thing the sisters have in common. For Dani, dragon slaying takes a backseat to everyday high school life. For Eden, slaying is her life. Yet they both agree on one thing: where dragons are concerned, it's kill or be killed. That is, until Dani actually meets a dragon and ends up forging a rare and magical soul bond with him. I love a book which says no more killing dragons, dragons are friends. Cannot wait to read this. And those are all the books in this haul. I hope you have enjoyed it. I feel like it's been a bit of a long one, but hopefully an interesting one. Let me know if you've read any of these or are planning on reading any of these. I will of course have any other YouTubers or videos that I've mentioned in the description box down below, as well as links to all of these books. And until next time, happy reading. I will see you all again soon. Bye everyone.